Hey everyone, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. I have Mr. Wilson Zehr coming on the call with us. He has a company called Zairmail and Sendix, and they are a company that specializes in direct mail and marketing campaigns. And I wanted to bring him on because I wanted to get some influence in your brain about using direct mail, because most people aren't using it. And when you use it strategically, you can really, kick up some numbers in a positive way utilizing direct mail. In other words, you can cut through the clutter a lot faster using direct mail if you know how to use it. So we're going to go talk to him again. Those of you who want to raise your EBITDA up, increase your cash flow, you want to get your valuation on your company up, get systems processes in there, lower down the stress levels, reach out to me directly at doug@ceosalesstrategies.com. All right. So let's go talk to Wilson right now. Hey, Wilson, welcome to the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast. Thanks so much for being here today.
Hey, Doug. Great to see you. Glad to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
It's awesome to talk with you. Now, you're from Oregon, right? Or if you're not from Oregon, you say, what do you say, Oregon or Oregon? Or
No, it's Oregon.
Oregon. No, yeah. All right.
Yeah, we're just south of Portland, Oregon.
And the company is it Sendix? Sendix, right? Cendix.com. Is that
right? I think that our software company is called Sendix, Cendix.
Mm-hmm.
Website is the same name, but .com. But the brand that people would know us best by is called Zairmail.
Oh, yeah.
It's like airmail with a Z on the front. So ZAIRMAIL.com. And Zairmail as a brand has been around since 1999 in one form or another.
So you've had some kind of get people a bit of your background. So when we get into the conversation, they'll understand the context. Like you've been around for a while and built some companies, right?
I have, yeah, I've done a lot of different things. I mean, I have not to go too far back, but I have an undergraduate in finance with a minor in computer science.
Mm-hmm.
I started out my career as a software engineer. For 5 or 6 years. I worked on compilers, basically, a programming language called Ada that was mandated by the Department of Defense for all mission critical and embedded systems. So a lot of large scale aero projects our software was used for. After a while, I felt like I wanted more control over my destiny. So I went back and I got an MBA and did some other graduate studies, but returned as a product line manager for a software company. So you know, um, I managed a couple of different product lines and was responsible for our relationships with all of our platform vendors. So Sun, HP, DEC, IBM, people like that.
Yep.
Went from there to a company called Sequent Computer Systems, where I managed our global relationship with Oracle Corporation, which was a $300 million business for Sequent, give or take. And then started working on startups. I mean, that was about the time when the internet or the World Wide Web just took off.
This
And we
around
worked on
1999 or so, or somewhere in that area, or is it earlier?
Uh, yeah, probably about 95, I
95.
think.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
And
but we,
how do we get the Zairmail?
yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, the first one we worked on was called Effusion. It was jointly funded by Intel, Microsoft, France Telecom, Telecom Italia. We worked on voice over IP applications.
Ah,
Some of that technology still exists in applications like Skype and things like that.
yep.
But we were basically working on convergence between the internet and the public telephone network. And that's been kind of a theme of the applications I've worked on throughout my career. Most of it, it's almost all software.
Yep.
It's online solutions, so software as a service. Um, and most of it's focused on convergence. So looking at legacy applications or legacy tools and figure out ways to make them work more efficiently with the World Wide Web, the internet, electronic communication, things like that. So Zairmail was the idea. The idea there is that the U.S. Postal Service still moves a lot of communication. It's something like 40% of the world's mail. It's a huge operation, but it was not connected to the online environment at all. So we started out to make sending a letter as fast and easy as sending an email. And you may say, well, that's backwards. Email is supposed to be the next generation. It's just that there's things that mail does that email does not do.
Yep.
And there's still a lot of applications for it. So we spent a lot of years working on that. We did the application is called Hybrid Mail. We did the first version of that in 1999, working in partnership with the U.S. Postal Service. The software company does web to print applications, so we automate the production and ordering of print products of all different kinds. And Zairmail is just a special, focused application of that software.
Let's talk about direct mail. Let's talk about using mail, because I think this is such an underutilized asset that people could use. And they don't. And by the way, folks, if you're wondering what voice over internet protocol basically is, probably one of the more famous companies you're familiar with would be Vonage, that really kind of pushed that type of thing out. But if you look at like Ring Central or, Zoom, phone systems or free PBX or whatever, I mean, they're all using that type of technology, correct, Wilson? For the most,
Yes, that's
part?
absolutely correct. And in the old days, they'd use, translate voice, you'd use copper wire, you
Right.
know,
Right.
POTS, plain old telephone service.
Yes.
And now if you go, you look at just about anything, call center, it's all digital. So you take the voice, the analog voice, you digitize it, you packetize it, and then you send it in packets where you reverse the process on the other end. So
Yes.
even as we're talking now, it's all packet based. There's
Yes.
probably no copper involved at all.
No, if there is, my goodness, we can, we can dig it up and sell it. Because I don't, so so, um, let's talk
When
about,
we first, just as a trivia,
yeah,
when we first moved into our first office space at Zairmail, we needed internet access because we had our servers on site,
yeah,
our web servers. And so we had a T1, a channelized
yeah,
T1, which
24
was
channels,
exactly,
64K
which was
each.
exactly, which was super expensive. But if you turn that into data, that's a really big pipe, you can push a lot of data through that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What was it, 1.54 meg or something like that back then,
Yeah.
right? So I was in the telecom industry, and we used to do integrated T1s. So I'm very
Okay.
familiar with that process. And it's it's interesting because and the reason I asked you in 1999, because back in 1999, I said to I remember talking to a bunch of people, and I said, this internet thing's going to change sales forever. Like, and they all said, you're crazy, man. Then how's that going to, I'm like, think about it. Information gets to you as the buyer before you as the sales channel, who they're relying upon to be an expert today. It's like shifts the balance of information power. And so, they all told me it was
Exactly.
nuts, but today here we are.
No, to validate your point, when I was at Sequent Computers, I mean, where our major competitors were like IBM and DEC and people like that, and we're all electronic. We all used email back at that point in time, which
Yeah.
which was a new idea, and sales guys would go on a sales call and they'd send back an email say, "How do I compete against IBM? How do I do this? How do I do that?" And the flow of information was so much faster. It was a huge competitive advantage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's where I see direct mail being a competitive advantage, especially for prospecting and follow-up components, which I don't see people using very effectively. When to give you an example, like when we used to do, so Chet Holmes wrote a book called The Ultimate Sales Machine. And then
Okay.
I was the president of sales and training for Chet, and then for Tony Robbins when they merged. And we used to do something called the Dream 100, which was take your top 100 clients that you're looking for and use direct mail, lumpy mail campaigns to go out and get their attention.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did this right, you'd end up with somewhere between 10 and 20% of the clients before you exhausted the list of 100, right? Mm-hmm. And so, why? Well, let's take today. How much direct mail do you actually get? You don't get a lot. I mean, I stopped by my mailbox, and it's like, oh, there's like 3 pieces of mail in the mailbox. Usually it's like a utility company that didn't get my mailing address at the mailing house. And then maybe a flyer from something and something else. Right. But all of a sudden there comes in this thing, and you look at it and you read it. So why is direct mail like it's 100% connection rate for the most part? Somebody picks it up, at least they have a connection,
Mhm.
right? Where an email, you may not even read it, or you know that type of thing, right? So why is direct mail,
Sure.
in your opinion, or in your expertise, I should say, why is direct mail a needed resource for people to utilize?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. We could go a couple different directions with that. So, I mean, with enterprise sales, um, people have used it as a tool, like you're talking about, forever. Because if I send a letter to somebody and then I follow up on my letter, all of a sudden it's not a cold call,
Right.
right? It's all of a sudden I'm just following up. Did you get my letter? Can I provide some more information? Just wanted to answer any questions you might have, and people have been doing that forever, and it's they do it because it's effective, and it's still effective.
Right.
And that's slightly different than the stuff you'll see in the mailbox that's still targeted direct mail, but it's direct response, right? They're
Mm-hmm.
looking for somebody to pick up the phone, call them, and buy something.
Right.
And enterprise sales, as you know, a lot of the sales cycle, average sales cycle, something like 12 to 18 months. There's tons of touches, so it's a different process, different journey for the customer. But that aside, we can come back and talk about all that. But why do people use it still? If you're talking about direct response, then what I would say is, as a market person, the piece we didn't touch on background wise is, I also teach at the university, in the university environment when I'm in between startups. So I usually teach marketing, entrepreneurship, finance, and business strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so when we're talking about marketing, we talk about, we're looking at tools, and the tools that will help the customer along the journey. We want to be able to get their attention and inform them and move them through that process. And in order to do that, we may need a lot of different tools. It's not just, do I do digital? Do I do use direct? Do I do something else, and, mail or something else?
Mm-hmm.
Because direct can be lots of things. You could do direct TV, direct, all different kinds of different mediums you can use that for. Um, so when we think about it as a tool, there's some things that it does that no other tool really does, at least not very well. First of all, you can reach every household and business in America. You alluded to that. Um, if you're going to use something electronic like email, first of all, you wouldn't be able to get probably a reliable list of every household and business in America. But something like 30% of even legitimate emails never delivered because of spam filters and
Right.
stuff. And then, when I don't know about you, but I probably get 400 or 500 emails a day, and
Yep.
we have an industrial spam filter, so it knocks out probably half of them before they even get to me. And then when I'm looking at an email, I'm not looking for stuff to read. I'm looking for stuff to delete, because I have to get to the bottom of my email box. So it's a different dynamic. But if I reach out with mail, I can reach every household in business America 6 days a week. It's proactive communication. If I'm using AdWords or something like that, I have to wait for people to come find me. I was talking to the gentleman who came yesterday to install Christmas lights, and he wanted to talk about his own advertising. He said, "Well, I'm using Facebook ads." I said, "Facebook ads, great tool. It's untargeted, but it's also passive. You have to wait for people to come to you. And when they're in that environment, by the way, it's not just you talking to that customer. It's noisy. There's other people trying to talk to that customer too.
Mm-hmm.
With mail, I can own that conversation. It's
Right.
it's me to the customer. Um, Precise audience targeting. If I decide I want to reach Jewish dentists in New Jersey who bought a car in the last 6 months, I can probably find that list. Finding that online is almost impossible. Um, and then the other piece you mentioned is that it's built in the American psyche. If people are used to checking your mail every day. If you talk to the postal service, they talk about the mail moment. People come home, um, the light shines from the heaven, and there's music, and they pick out their mail, and they take some action on it. And of course, that's over romanticizing a bit. But people are used to, checking their mail and taking action or not based on that. Um, which is a lot different reaction than they get when they get a telesales call during dinner, you know.
Without question.
So,
Right. It's, I think there's one other aspect to it too. When you get a really good piece of mail in the mail, it
Mhm.
feels like a present. It feels like a gift.
Sure.
And I don't get that feeling with like an email or a text or, you know, even a phone call, right? There's something because it really engages most of our senses, right? We got our tactile sense. We've
Mhm.
got the auditory sense of opening the thing up if it's, sealed. We've got the visual sense of how it looks. You even have the sense of smell of how maybe, I mean, I remember I got a card in the mail one time and it smelled a little like Christmassy peppermint type smell, right? And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I opened it up and it was obviously, I mean, I wish it was your Christmas guy light thing because I would have been like, geez, come on over, right? Because who wants to go out there in the freezing cold here and hang Christmas lights, right? I mean, very few people I know. Plus, at my age, I don't want to be climbing the ladders like I used
Yeah,
to.
my
Right?
wife won't let me go on the roof. There's no way.
Yeah, if I fall off there, it's over. Um, so there's a lot of, I'm a big proponent on it because people don't use it very often either. So there's less competition in that space and you can be very creative on using direct mail as well. And
Sure.
people generally, at least they connect and they usually read something in it, right? And so to me, there's a better way of getting your message out, and it's an awesome follow-up tool.
Sure. Yeah. It's interesting. There's different ways to use it too. And so, in advertising, we think about a continuum. On one end, there's brand advertising. It's
Mm-hmm.
Nike, just do it.
Yep.
No URL, no phone number, anything.
Yep.
On the other end is it's just an 800 number. Call now. So response advertising. And when you look at the mailbox, you're going to get some variation of those themes. So depending on how you use it and how you've targeted it, it may or may not be less actionable or less, important right now. If When we look at this model of direct mail or the model, oh, by the way, I was going to say earlier that Direct Marketing Association says that on average, direct mail returns about $12 for every dollar invested. And so, that's a very good return rate. But in order to do that, it really needs to be on the targeted direct response into that theme of that spectrum. So if the model that we use is one where we say, the success rate is 70% list, 20% offer, 10% creative. Meaning the most important thing is to make sure I'm talking to the right person. And if I'm talking to the right person and I have the right offer, something compelling, our response rates usually look very good. Good things happen. Whatever's less is creative. And it's interesting because what a lot of agencies, what they pitch most is the creative,
Right.
which is important. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not. I mean, to break through. But if I can talk to the right person, that is more than half the battle right there. And then so when you talk about you're looking at your mailbox at home, a lot of it, you can get a Val pack or something, that's just, blow-ins
Right.
that are, that are not targeted, and those may or may not respond well. But if I have something to you, Mr. Brown, and I know that you have, children in school, and I've got this discount education loan, and we can help you manage that process. You might be interested in that, and if we've done our homework and if we've got a compelling offer.
Yeah, and B2C type, let's say you just got a mortgage, right? And
Mhm.
then, it's public record and you could send a direct mail piece saying, hey, you got a mortgage, you want to protect your mortgage. Let's say we sell in life insurance and something like that, like, mortgage protection insurance. Um, Also in the B2B world, though, it works for going after clients
Mhm.
if we and what I like about direct mail is there's not a lot of people who are getting mail today like they
Mhm.
used to years ago. Like when I was growing up, it was mail or a phone call. You didn't have internet. You didn't have,
Mhm.
You might have a print advertising or whatever that you might read something, but
Or the
you know,
yellow pages.
yeah, or the yellow page, exactly, right? But the yellow pages don't that's like I'm going to the yellow pages because I know I need something.
Right.
If I got a really nice targeted message from direct mail, it's telling me, oh, maybe I do need something. And
Hmm.
so therefore I'm now responding to that process. Um, it's and what I want people to get is if and I agree 100% with you. No matter what kind of marketing we're doing, if we don't have our ideal right fit buyer in the mix, and as a primary, then our messaging is going to be off anyways, right? I mean, so you're not going to send a message to, I don't know, let's pick something, New England Patriots fans, talking about how great Tom Brady was down in, in in Florida, right? When he moved
Hmm.
from point A to point B. And then try to sell them something unless it's something angry, right? Because they're not gonna respond.
Yeah.
So that targeting, and I didn't know it was 70% on that side. Like when you're saying 70%, I agree with those numbers because that's the first targeted thing. And yeah, of course you got to have some type of offer, but reality is if you're making the right pitch to the right person, the offer is kind of an easier, it's kind of the easy thing, right? And of course, the packaging, I think it does make sense. You got to have something that's congruent with you're probably not going to send a B2B type direct mail piece with, say, children's, stationery that you would send to a christening or something like that, right? You're going to probably package it differently. Um, what are some of the things that, of course, target is number one, but after people go, okay, that's cool. How do they kind of get started in this process, Wilson? What's kind of like the natural flow of, hey, I want to take this next step.
Yeah, I think that the process from a marketing standpoint, just marketing in general, not just direct mail, is understanding your unique value proposition,
Okay.
right? What does my marketplace look like? Who am I trying to reach? What is my unique value proposition in the marketplace? Once you understand your who you need to talk to and what your unique value proposition is, what problem you're solving and how you're solving it in a more compelling way than anyone else. Um, then it just becomes a question of finding a way to connect with those people and positioning the message. We want to interrupt and inform and motivate, people to take action.
And
And that's going to depend a little bit on channels. We've got a model called the strategic marketing model we use, where we go through this process, defining a product, defining market, looking at price points, defining the channel. And then once we define the channel, then we can figure out which tools are the right tools to use to drive demand. Because the whole role of it's interesting because we see this in the university environment too. When people talk about marketing, what they think about is advertising.
mm,
But marketing is much bigger than that,
yeah,
strategic marketing. And
yeah.
so, um, and the role of advertising is to build awareness, establish preference, and drive demand. And so we can't do that until we know what the product is, who we're talking to, and what the channel we're going to be using to drive that demand through.
Okay.
Um,
So
yeah.
let's dig into that for a second. Awareness is pretty straightforward, right? It's like we're gonna get someone's attention to try to create some interest and desire to take an action, right? Like the old ADA
Mhm.
type thing, right? So awareness, hey, I'm here, right? It's like kind of like the outreach, if you will, right? To create. So how would you define awareness?
Right. Well, what we want to do is we want to create cognitive dissonance, right? To throw out a term that's way too big for what it is. This basic idea that somebody's cruising along, they're cruising along and they're their sedan on the
Right.
interstate, listening to the radio, and then all of a sudden somebody comes on and they say, "Hey, did you lock the back door?" And you're like, What? No, maybe I didn't. I don't know. I don't remember." Well, if you had this product, you could push a button and we'd lock it for you right now. And you're like, "Oh, that is good. That's a good idea." you know. And so you've created, somebody's comfortable. You've created some discomfort because you've alerted them to a problem they have that they didn't know about. You have a solution to it. Somebody may want to, should want to pay you for that solution if if you've priced it correctly,
Right.
right? You're providing greater value than you're asking the customer for in return. Um, and then that motivates behavior, right? You motivate the behavior from there. In the days before cell phones, that would have been harder in the car, and I wouldn't advocate getting people to, play with their smartphone while they're driving. but,
No, would I?
but
Right.
they're, but hopefully the next time they pull over, they'll connect with you and buy your door locking solution. But there's a lot of things like that. So that's what we do in advertising. I mean, there are some problems that are just compelling, right? People just know they have them and they search out a solution. But so often we'll have, people will have issues they don't know about. And so there's an education process that takes place there where we create awareness of this problem and then we offer a solution because once you have that dissonance that's uncomfortable for any consumer, whether it's a consumer or a business. And so the natural reaction is try to bridge that gap and get back to this comfort zone.
Hmm.
And the only way I can do that is to find a solution to this new problem. If the problem's too small, then the discomfort's too low, and people can wait forever. If the problem's very big, people will feel like they need to take action right now.
Well, this goes back, I think, 100% to what you're talking about is, knowing thy buyer, right? And knowing what their pain points are, knowing what the opportunities they're looking for are, and being able to craft that message, that pattern interrupt in the beginning you were talking about with,
Mhm.
being on the radio. And I think if people, start there and they work through this kind of the formula that you're setting out, then they're going to have at least a better chance of success. Now, those of you who are doing B2B or even B2C, because what I do see a lot of times is people rely on the mail, they send it out, but then they never follow up on that process. And
Right?
yeah,
It's yeah, it's tricky in that regard, though. B2C, direct mail, you see a lot of it is very frequently used. You can use it in B2B too, but when we step into the B2B world, we're talking all of a sudden with the buying center, right?
right,
There's a lot of people involved who could be involved in that process. So I'm going to have to influence them. That's where selling to veto and all of those kind of things come into play. And your idea of sending a letter to somebody, to somebody like that you want to talk to and say, "Hey, I have this really interesting idea I'd like to talk to you about. Can you give me a little time, let's grab coffee," whatever that looks like. Um, to build on one example you had earlier, think about a mortgage, right? When interest rates go down, I'm a bank and I want to sell cash out refis. Um, I know that I can get a look out there and I can look at the underwriting criteria that my lenders are using, my loan department is using. So 640 or better credit, no bankruptcy in the last 2 years, no 30-day lates, whatever that looks like, debt to equity ratios, but I can pull that information. I can FICO scores, all of that stuff. So I can pull that information. I can make sure that I'm talking to people that I can underwrite. And I can look at the interest rates within a certain period of time, look at the time when the loan was actually done, and identify people that are probably paying too much.
right,
And then I can reach out to them and I could say, "Hey, you've got a mortgage of X, and here's what you're paying. Oh, by the way, with interest rates going down, here's what you're going to pay. We'll give you this percent rate. There's an APR of this. Here's what your new payment would look like. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to waive the application fee. Give me a call today." And if you're going to save somebody $200 or $300 a month,
yeah.
that's valuable to the consumer, and it's going to be powerful in some cases, motivate behavior. Um, I don't know how else you would do that. for people.
Well, I mean, the other thing about direct mail is people can look at this, decide on what they want to do. But what I found is a lot of times, if they have some level of interest, they leave the direct mail piece hanging around.
Mhm.
And so you get another couple of views out of it that you don't
Sure.
necessarily get out of, say, email or text message, because, like you said, you get 400 emails. By the time, unless they bank that, which they very rarely do, you get another couple hundred emails that's completely off the page that they were on before, and they never go back to it. But with a direct mail piece, we've sent direct mail pieces, and I've walked into offices, and that direct mail piece is actually sitting on their desk,
Sure.
right? And it might have been two
Yeah.
months ago that we actually sent that direct mail piece, but they'd still like left it there. And so that's the other benefit of direct mail. Um, Wilson, how do people get a hold of you or get a hold of your company or learn a little bit more about what you guys do?
I think the best way to reach us is to reach out to Zairmail, the company, www.zairmail.com. Zairmail spelled like airmail with a Z on the front.
Yeah.
So Zairmil.com. We also have a new product. Oh, by the way, and I'm on LinkedIn. We have on our site, we've got a toll-free number, and we answer the phone because we want to talk to our customers, unlike a lot of internet businesses. So, we're happy to have a conversation anytime, whether you buy something or not. That's just fine. But you can find me on LinkedIn and all the usual social media places. But we do have a new product that I think is really interesting. It's really interesting for your enterprise sales application. It's called Speedy. So www.zairmail.com/Speedy. It's a desktop application that you can download, and it will allow you to just create a letter. So you can either drop a Word or PDF on it, or you can just click on it. It opens a box. You just type a letter. Hey, John, it was great seeing you. Look forward to following up in 2 weeks. Select their address, push the button. It turns into a letter and actually mails to them, even one piece of mail, and just
Really?
automates that entire process. First two letters are free. Um, it's a tool that belongs in every B2B salesperson's toolbox.
It's called Speedy, Speedee.
Speedy,
Speedy.
Speedy.
Oh, Speedy that way. Okay, sorry. Um,
No, it's fine.
and is it like handwritten, or is it
It
computer
could be. I mean,
generated?
because Um, if you're doing a Word or PDF doc, of course you can pick the font, so
Yeah,
you can do that. If you pull up the little text box where you write a note, I think there's some font selection. I'm not sure which fonts are there. I'll have to double check that. But it's just a fast and easy way for you to write a letter. So in this application, B2B application, writing that first prospect letter. Or what is very common in enterprise sales is after you meet somebody face to face,
yeah,
is follow up with a handwritten postcard or a
yeah,
handwritten note of some kind.
yeah.
And this makes that really fast and easy. And for people who are new to sales, they may not even know that technique. But for old school enterprise sales, it pays big dividends. People are still doing it.
The smart people are. The most people are too darn lazy to actually do something like that, but they just don't do it. So if you want to stand out from your competitors, folks, not just be different, but differentiate yourself from your competitors. This is one way of doing it. By the way, also when you're the person who receives this, know you went through a little bit of effort to actually get there. So it tells them that you're kind of a more reliable person, considering half the people will never follow up post meeting anyways. So just elevates your status as more of the expert to go to.
Right. Well, and it's if you're building a rapport, the mail is tactile too. So that somebody gets a greeting from you and it's tactile, it's physical, it means even if it doesn't mean that, but psychologically, the
Yeah.
idea is they are important to you.
Yes. Yes. And then, and caring is a big component of building trust. And, so just if nothing else, use that app to start getting going and just do it. So, Wilson, thanks for being on the CEO Sales Strategies podcast. Thanks so much for bringing the expertise. And I appreciate you being here very much.
Well, thanks, Doug. Once again, I appreciate the opportunity. We'd love to talk to anybody who's interested in this kind of solution. We're here to help.
And folks, we'll put all these notes in the notes section for you so you can just click and go. All right. Thanks again.
Thanks, Doug. Take care.
All right, guys. Hope you learned some things. If nothing, give a good look at direct mail and utilize it in your prospecting efforts, right? Utilize it in your follow-up efforts. It will absolutely differentiate you from the process. We'll put all the notes down here for you. You can check out the zairmail.com/speedy. Check it out. I haven't used it yet. I'm going to take a look at it. And again, like it's part of one of the things you can put in, like, in what's that called, a quiver, right? Where you have arrows in your quiver, so to speak. But the one of those arrows should be direct mail. You can utilize it again in the prospecting aspect of it, in the follow-up aspect of it. It does differentiate you, and it does show you care to take the time to actually go through a little bit of energy and effort to get it there. All right. As always, I always say, go out and sell something. Before I go to the rest of this, if you want to increase your revenues, sell more, you want to decrease your expenses on the operational side and the overall hard cost on the company side, the expenses, up the revenue, lower the expenses, improve your EBITDA margins to give you more cash flow, to position yourself for valuation of a higher order. Reach out to me directly, and plus lower your stress. If you want to reach out to me directly, Doug at ceosalesstrategies.com. That's plural on sales and strategies. So go out and sell something, play win-win-win. Do not discount, because you don't have to almost all the time. And it's just conveying more value to them in their value perception. Until next time, this is Doug C. Brown with the CEO Sales Strategies Podcast saying, to your success.